I only discovered it on my third night in the cottage. Sophia had been dreaming something about her ex-husband, about the apartment they'd shared, about coming home to find all the locks changed when a sound pulled her up from sleep. Scratch, scratch, scratch. She lay still, her eyes open in the darkness, listening. The sound came again, faint but unmistakable. Something was scratching, not at the window, not at the door, but somewhere closer. Beneath the bed, Sophia's first thought was rats. The cottage was old. Of course there would be rats in the walls, in the floor. She dealt with mice in the city apartment. This was no different. But the scratching didn't sound like rats. It was too deliberate, too slow, and there was something else, a faint sound like breathing, labored and wet. She reached for her phone on the nightstand, turned on the flashlight. The bedroom leapt into harsh relief, the dresser, the closet, the window showing nothing but her own reflection against the darkness outside. The scratching stopped. Sophia held her breath, listening. Silence, except for the wind outside and the ancient house settling. Maybe she'd imagined it. Maybe it had been a dream bleeding into wakefulness. Then it came again, weaker this time. A faint scratching, directly beneath where she lay. I heard a weak scratching beneath the bed. Sophia sat up, her heart beginning to race. She should just go back to sleep. Whatever was under there, a rat, a raccoon that had somehow gotten into the crawl space, would be gone by morning. She didn't need to investigate now, in the middle of the night, but she knew she wouldn't be able to sleep without knowing. When I bent down to look, Sophia slid to the edge of the bed, phone in hand, and slowly leaned over the side. The light from her phone cast stark shadows across the floor. The space beneath the bed was dark, full of dust, bunnies, and what looked like an old cardboard box she hadn't noticed before. And eyes. Glowing eyes stared back at me. Two luminescent orbs, reflecting her phone's light with an eerie green-gold radiance, gazed at her from the shadows. They weren't the small, beady eyes of a rat or the masked face of a raccoon. They were larger, set wider apart, and there was an intelligence in them that made Sophia's breath catch in her throat. The eyes blinked, slowly. And whatever was bleeding under my bed, Sophia could see it now, as her eyes adjusted and her phone's light penetrated deeper into the shadows. Dark, liquid, almost black, pooling on the floor beneath the bed. And the creature, she could see the outline of it now, pressed against the far wall under the bed frame, was breathing in shallow, rapid gasps. Whatever it was injured. Dying, maybe. Wasn't a dog. The proportions were wrong for a dog, even though it was roughly dog-sized. The head was too large, the snout too short. And those eyes, no dog had eyes that glowed like that. Sophia jerked back, scrambling away from the edge of the bed. Her phone slipped from her hand and clattered to the floor, the light spinning wildly before coming to rest, pointing at the ceiling. She sat in the sudden darkness, her heart hammering, her breath coming in short gasps. What the hell was under her bed? For a long moment, she couldn't move. Her mind raced through possibilities, each more absurd than the last. A wild animal? But what kind? She was in upstate New York, not the wilderness. There were deer and raccoons and foxes, but nothing with eyes like that. The scratching came again, even fainter now. It sounded almost pleading. Sophia forced herself to breathe slowly, to think. Whatever was under there was hurt, probably badly. It hadn't attacked her. It had just been hiding there, bleeding, dying in the darkness. She needed to see it properly. Moving carefully, Sophia retrieved her phone and stood up. She walked around to the foot of the bed, where she'd have a better angle to see underneath without having to get too close. She crouched down and shined the light into the space. The creature was pressed into the far corner, beneath where the head of the bed met the wall. In the phone's light, Sophia could see it more clearly, and what she saw made no sense. It was covered in dark fur, or was it fur? It looked almost iridescent, shifting colors in the light like oil on water. The body was roughly the size of a large dog, but the proportions were all wrong. The legs were too long, jointed in ways that made Sophia think of a deer or a goat. The head was large and angular, with those enormous eyes set forward like a predator's. The snout was short, the mouth closed, but she could see the edge of teeth, too many teeth, too sharp. and it was definitely bleeding. The dark liquid was spreading slowly across the floor, pooling beneath its body. One of its rear legs was bent at an unnatural angle. As she watched, the creature's eyes focused on her. It made a sound soft, almost questioning. Not a growl or a hiss, but something that sounded disturbingly like speech, just beyond the edge of comprehension. "What are you?" Sophia whispered. The creature's eyes blinked again. It tried to move, to pull itself farther away from her, but the effort seemed to cost it. It collapsed back into the corner, its breathing becoming more labored. Sophia sat back on her heels, her mind racing. This wasn't possible. This couldn't be real. She must still be dreaming, or she'd had a breakdown, or... No. The floor was hard beneath her feet. The air was cold. The metallic smell of blood was real. She was awake, and there was something impossible dying under her bed. She should call someone. Animal control. The police. Someone. But even as she thought it, she knew she wouldn't. What would she say? That there was a creature under her bed that looked like it had wandered out of mythology? They'd think she was insane. Hell, she was starting to think she was insane. The creature made that sound again. Softer this time. Its eyes were dimming, the glow fading. It was dying. Sophia made a decision she knew was probably stupid, possibly dangerous, but felt somehow necessary. She couldn't just let it die here, bleeding out in the dark under her bed. Whatever it was alive, it was suffering, and she couldn't walk away from that. She went downstairs and grabbed towels from the bathroom, then returned to the bedroom. She pulled the bed away from the wall. It was lighter than it looked, moving easily to give herself room to work. The creature didn't try to run or attack. It just watched her with those dimming eyes, its breathing shallow and rapid. "I'm not going to hurt you," Sophia said softly, not sure if it could understand her, not even sure why she was talking to it. "I'm going to help, okay?" She knelt down beside it, close enough now to see more details. Its fur, she decided to call it fur, even though it didn't quite look like fur was matted with blood around the injured leg. She could see bone through torn flesh. The injury looked bad, possibly fatal without treatment, but how did you treat something that shouldn't exist? Sophia pressed one of the towels gently against the wound, applying pressure. The creature flinched but didn't pull away. It made that almost speech sound again, and Sophia had the strangest feeling that it was thanking her. She worked carefully, using the towels to clean away enough blood to see the extent of the injury. The leg was definitely broken, compound fracture, with significant tissue damage. She had no idea if this creature's anatomy was similar enough to dogs or cats for her basic knowledge of pet first aid to apply, but she had to try. She had supplies in her car, a first aid kit, some rope, duct tape. She'd over-prepared for the move, bringing everything she thought she might need in an emergency. She'd never imagined an emergency like this. "I need to go get some things," she told the creature. "I'll be right back. Don't die while I'm gone, okay?" She hurried downstairs and out to her car, grabbing the first aid kit and her emergency supplies. When she returned to the bedroom, the creature was still there, still breathing, though its eyes were almost closed now. Working as quickly as she could, Sophia fashioned a makeshift splint for the broken leg, using a wooden dowel from her unpacking supplies and strips of cloth. The creature let her manipulate the limb without protest, though she could feel its body trembling with pain or shock. She wrapped the wound in clean bandages, taping them securely. She had no idea if this would help, but it was better than doing nothing. When she was done, she sat back and looked at the creature. It was watching her again, its eyes a little brighter than they had been. The bleeding had slowed. It was still in bad shape, but maybe, just maybe, it would survive. "You can't stay under the bed," Sophia said. "You need somewhere more comfortable." She found an old blanket in the closet and spread it out on the floor beside the bed in the warmest corner of the room. Then, very carefully, she slid her hands under the creature's body. It tensed, but didn't resist. It was heavier than she expected, and the texture of its fur was strange, silky and coarse at the same time, and warm, almost hot to the touch. She lifted it carefully and placed it on the blanket. Up close, she could smell it, an earthy, musky scent, like wet leaves and moss, and something sharper, almost mineral. The creature settled onto the blanket with what sounded like a sigh. its eyes closed. Sophia watched it for a long moment, then stood up. She needed to clean the blood from under the bed, and she needed to think about what the hell she was going to do next. She spent the next hour scrubbing the floor, trying to get the bloodstains out. The old wood had absorbed a lot of it, leaving dark patches that wouldn't come clean no matter how hard she scrubbed. Finally, she gave up and pushed the bed back into place, covering the worst of the stains. Dawn was beginning to lighten the window when she finally returned to bed. The creature was sleeping, its breathing steadier now. In sleep, it looked almost peaceful, and Sophia could better appreciate the strange beauty of it, the way its fur seemed to hold light, the elegant length of its limbs, the delicate structure of its face. What was it? Where had it come from? And how had it ended up injured and dying under her bed? Questions for tomorrow, she thought. For now, she was too tired to think. She lay down and closed her eyes. And despite everything, despite the impossible creature sleeping 5 feet away, despite the blood she hadn't been able to clean, despite all of it, she fell asleep almost immediately.